Hi, everybody. We are the Non-Prophets. I'm your host, Jeff D. Our co-host is Denis Loubet.
Howdy.
And our producer, Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Welcome back again to our show. We are live May 8, 2004. Our opening theme music, now the standard theme we plan on playing every episode is Battle Without Honor or Humanity by Tokomatsu Hotai from the Kill Bill 1 soundtrack. And this episode we want to dedicate to the word that's on everyone's mind, on the tip of everyone's tongue, coming from everyone's lips these days. The word, yes, you guessed it, it's torture.
You could even
Doesn't that sound like fun?
Pulled from people's lips with pinchers.
That's right. Forced from their lips by broomsticks up your ass.
Indeed.
The Atheist Charities is an organization of helping hands to empower and educate those in need without imposing the chains of religion. Counseling, vocational employment services, computer classes, food drives, and educational services are among the many programs they aim to offer to the working poor to assist in breaking the anchors of poverty. Their website is www.atheistcharities.org. .com. And once again, the National Atheist Ombuds just want to keep everybody on their toes. If you encounter slurs or discrimination against atheists in the media in the U.S., report it to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. They want to know who said what, where, and when, and they will write up the information and distribute it to local participating non-theist organizations who will distribute press releases regarding the incident. Okay.
They must be frickin' overwhelmed these days.
So torture.
Yeah.
Who's for torture?
Depends on the circumstance.
And who?
Oh my gosh.
And for how long?
Did
the Christians are for torture.
Situational ethics and all that.
The Christians are for torture. They're for eternal torture.
That's true. They are.
That is true.
It's okay when God does it.
They are pro-torture. They worship the guy who sends people to be tortured.
They think it's okay when God does it, and therefore they think that, at least on some occasions, it's simply okay.
It's okay. And to torture them forever.
Yeah. I caught a bit of Al Franken's show the other day.
Oh, yes.
In his segment where he talks to his friend that listens to Rush Limbaugh.
Uh-huh. And what did Rush Limbaugh have to say
Rush
about...
Limbaugh compared, he said he saw the photos. I hope everybody has seen these photos now.
I haven't actually seen them. I've only heard
Oh,
of
man.
them.
They're actually not that easy to find.
Yeah, if somebody knows where they are, and several people have posted different links to me where they are, but if anybody knows where they are in the chat room, please post them so that we can all be on the same page for this show.
Well, let me just put it to you this way, right? Rush Limbaugh saw these photos and said, well, those people over there, they're under a lot of pressure. They're just blowing off steam. It's like a fraternity hazing. He compared it to that. And Al Franken said, yeah, I guess you have a point because, I have photos here of Bush when he was in, where did he go, Princeton?
Yale.
Yale?
Yeah.
And he was in Yale being hazed, and there he is naked with, some other naked men piled on top of him with a broomstick up his ass, and he's sucking off a donkey. So yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Well, not to mention the fact that when you join a fraternity, it's usually voluntary.
Usually.
Yeah.
You don't just grab people off the street for random hazing.
Right. Keep them in a prison for a few weeks. And
people who grab people off the street for random hazing, it's called assault.
But there was actually something else on Al Franken the very next day.
Yeah.
And I hate to do this because I know we've both been listening to Air America Radio a lot.
Yeah.
And I hate to feel like I'm stealing Al Franken's material.
I'll go ahead.
Time.
It's good material.
The next day, Rush Limbaugh grunted and strained a bit and came up with something new to say about it, which was, I'm not convinced that this will make Muslim people think badly of us. maybe it will convince them that they're serious, and then they'll respect us more.
Oh.
Because we send people over there to grin widely and point at the crotches of prisoners that we've captured. That proves that we're serious.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Unbe-frickin-leavable.
Of course, the unfortunate thing about this, one of the many unfortunate aspects of this, is that...
They knew about it since January and didn't do anything?
Well, other than
Not that? Okay.
It's not actually the military that's doing it, which it's mercenaries.
It's mercenaries.
It's hired guns.
Hired by who?
And you know why? Well, they're hired by the military, but the fact that they're not military means that they can't be court-martialed.
Right.
They can only be prosecuted at the discretion of the people who hired them.
Yeah. Really? Is that what it is? Because I've heard conflicting reports about this, that then the most common thing I've heard is that the only law that applies to these people at all is the local law enforcement of Iraq, which of course is in a shambles.
There is none right now.
There is none. And what there is would be just, propped up by us anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why on earth would we have needed mercenaries over there?
Because we don't have enough troops from the military.
What? Nobody.
But we're not talking about. No, that's bullshit. We're not talking about entire platoons,
right,
of mercenaries, right? Like whole mercenary legions.
No.
Working alongside our own troops. No, these are a handful. Maybe hundreds, right? But these are not organized military units.
Handful.
Huh?
A relative handful.
A relative handful compared to the rest of the size of the army. It's not to increase the size of the army. It's to have people over there that are not under any jurisdiction.
Right.
That is what it's for.
Well, the
people who can do shit exactly like this.
The Bush administration, of course, is obsessed with privatizing things. They want to set up an example. In fact, I read in Iraq where they have a government that's like their ideal that gets involved in things as little as possible, so that then they can say when this turns into a beautiful utopia, see. Aren't you Americans jealous of what's going on over there?
Yeah, but, that implies that our government is not involved in this thing. Hey, they privatized this particular operation, and that does not keep our government out of it. Yeah, our government is hip deep in this particular problem.
Right.
That they knew about since January and did nothing. That they would not apologize for the first several days. Bush went over there and talked to the people of the region on, radio stations we control. At least one of them. And did not apologize. After he came back, suddenly, headlines, Bush apologizes. Well, why the fuck didn't he apologize when it first became known? Why didn't he say, I'm sorry that we sent these people over there that were not under any jurisdiction, and they went crazy?
I suppose
didn't even say that. I wouldn't expect him to say, I'm sorry we sent people over there specifically for the purpose of having some people who could do crazy things and not get in trouble, but he should have at least said something. No, he comes back, and then his handlers determine that the polls suggest he ought to apologize. Same thing with Rumsfeld, who didn't apologize until, last night?
Right.
And on our local newspaper, this is great, the headline is Rumsfeld apologizes. Subtext, warns that the situation could get worse. But there's a picture of Rumsfeld looking at the camera, close up, with a grin on his face and his thumb up.
Oh, my Lord.
Hey, wow. Here's me apologizing. It could get worse.
It seems that I've seen someone in that pose before.
And then there's that. Yes, it looks a whole lot like... But did she have her thumb up in the picture?
Yes, she did.
Not up the guy's...
No, not the thumb up there.
I thought she was pointing.
No, that's the job for the broomstick.
No, well, there are several pictures, but one of them has this woman grinning and making the thumbs up sign.
Ugh.
Very happily.
An apology is something that you do when you feel sorry. Right?
Really?
If you wait several days until public pressure forces you to issue an apology, then you're not sorry, and it's not an apology.
Somebody might get the idea that you don't mean it.
Also, I love this crap that Bush said to the people of the Middle East, right, in his radio interview over there. He said to them, "This is not the United States that I know." Well, that's hardly the point. It's the United States that they know. Why? Because that's how it's being presented over there.
Congratulations, assholes. This is the America that you helped create.
Good grief.
It's not the America I used to know.
No, yeah, it's different now, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Maybe that Constitution was a good idea.
And besides, it was, in fact, the America he knew, because he's known since January. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rumsfeld, I think, is calling us.
Yes.
Yeah, and Bush is known since January, so it's a lie in the first place.
Yep.
Of course it's the America he knows. He knows that was going on. Knew. For months. And, and the only finger that's been lifted in response to this is Rumsfeld's thumb. I'm sorry, and it could get worse.
Mea culpa.
I wish we had a camera in here so you could see me mimicking Rumsfeld with my thumb.
He says, I take full responsibility. Well, is he willing to be persecuted for it? Prosecuted, sorry.
Well,
he's already being persecuted.
They ought to take full responsibility. I mean, you know what the response I've heard from conservatives the most is, hey, Saddam did it all the time, and we're not as bad as Saddam.
But we're trying.
That's an awfully low bar to try to,
the standard.
And on top of that, this is happening in the same building where Saddam's torture chambers.
Right. That's not a good PR move, if anything. In fact, talking about the PR associated with
management.
Across the Arab world and beyond, the tormenting of Iraqi prisoners by their American guards shredded already thin support for Washington's invasion of Iraq and its vow to install democratic values and respect for human rights. The outrage over the abuse shown in pictures splashed across front pages and television screens drew emotional comparisons asking how the American occupation of the country could be distinguished from the way Saddam Hussein's government oppressed ordinary Iraqis.
It occurs to me with that Supreme Court ruling recently legalizing gay sex. Maybe, some twisted conservatives got a hold of this and said, well, it's a right in America to have things rammed up your ass. It's human rights. That was my tasteless,
They're a little confused.
Tasteless comment of the day.
Good job.
Thank you. Go ahead.
A few commentators in the Middle East criticized what they called an element of hypocrisy in the reaction, since virtually no voices were raised during decades of torture in Iraqi prisons or elsewhere, but more commonly the images seemed to feed existing deep anger at the United States because it had promised that it would be better. The United States already had very little credibility in the Middle East, and it is now approaching zero, said Abdelmonem Said, the director of Al-Ahram Center for Political and Strategic Studies in Cairo. What remains of the American logic for being in Iraq, he asked. If we start with the issue of weapons of mass destruction, there are no weapons of mass destruction. There was talk of fighting terrorism, and they brought terrorism with them. Finally, the issue of democracy and respect for human rights. Saddam was a butcher who tortured people. Well, now the United States is torturing people. That's exactly what I asked when this came up. I mean, our last remaining excuse is, well, he was a horrible man. We had to get rid of him. He was doing terrible things to the Iraqi people. And we couldn't let him be the only one.
Yeah. Mr. Bush, you can stop with the moral high ground. We've lost it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and remember when this all started and I was responding to being asked whether I support our troops?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. I mean, does it mean thinking happy thoughts at them? Or if it does, then no, I don't support them that way. I do not hope that, I don't hope that they successfully kill a bunch of Iraqi people. right?
Right.
Do I hope that not too many of them die? Yeah, I hope that. But fat lot of good that's going to do anybody. Why is anybody pestering me over whether I hope that they don't get killed? It's irrelevant. But this incident makes it clear that even if I did want to issue a blanket note of support for our troops, right?
Yeah.
Then that would still be stupid, because clearly it depends on which soldiers you're talking about, right? And I'm not just talking, the hired thugs versus legitimate soldiers. I'm talking decent human beings versus indecent human beings, right? That's what I'm talking about. It depends on the soldier. Some soldiers, I kind of think they might deserve what they got. Some people, just some, and, I could point to some photos to say which ones.
Except they're not our soldiers, technically.
Yeah, but do you okay, are we to believe that absolutely none of this is going on in the regular military? I don't know. How do we know?
I don't know.
I would not have thought that this could go on, that stuff like this would go on even under, even in mercenary, with mercenaries that were working for our military. I never would have believed
this. The thing that strikes me about this is not that the Bush administration is, directly responsible in the sense that, they ordered it or something, but just that they don't seem to give a shit.
They knew since January.
Right.
It's been established that they knew in January.
And they didn't do anything about it.
Case in point, when I'm talking about, it depends on the soldier, right? This Pat Tillman we keep hearing so much about?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Why don't you fill people in?
Football star. I must say, I was extremely sickened at having Pat Tillman's face thrown at me every time I turned on the news.
Yeah.
Right? For days and weeks. It was like, oh, look, we have a clean-cut young American boy he's in football, therefore he must be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
That is thrown at us constantly to whoop up support for the war. Well, no, I'm not going to support it because of that. However, they didn't tell us the whole story. Here's an article.
Well, the whole story didn't show up until a couple of days ago.
Well, is the rest of the story coming out on, CNN? Not that I know of. I don't know. It's possible. I stopped watching the damn. But here's the rest of the story that you might not have heard. Just when we thought we had a pure and simple hero, a millionaire athlete who gave up wealth and fame to become the ideal patriot, to make the ultimate sacrifice, his friends and family had to complicate everything. They turned Pat Tillman into a human being on Monday, showing us what was really lost during that ambush in Afghanistan, insisting that we question every assumption we've made since he died an icon on April 22. Tillman's youngest brother, Rich, wore a rumpled white t-shirt, no jacket, no tie, no collar, and immediately swore into the microphone. This is at Pat Tillman's funeral. He hadn't written anything he said, and with the starkest honesty, he asked mourners to hold their spiritual bromides. Pat isn't with God, he said. He's fucking dead. He wasn't religious, so thank you for your thoughts, but he's fucking dead. What? This didn't happen for God as well as country? A professional athlete turned soldier, and we're supposed to believe that he'd have no use for piety? Robbed of a cliché, where does that leave us? Tillman talked about everything with everyone. According to the speakers, he had read the Bible, the Koran, the Book of Mormon, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and he underlined passages constantly. A friend, his last name Garwood, recalled how he'd emailed articles to friends highlighting certain parts and writing in mail articles to friends, highlighting certain parts and writing in the margins, "Let's discuss."
Mm-hmm.
So Pat Tillman had a brain.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? This is what's throwing me for a loop. A football player with a brain? Who actually, thought about things? Read from multiple sources and compared notes?
Yep.
By the time the ceremony ended, after his brother and brother-in-law sipped the Guinness that Garwood poured in Tillman's honor, the funny-thinking, wild, crazy man had come to life. The family's loss, the loss of every soldier's family, seemed more real. Tillman wasn't an icon anymore. He was a man you wanted to know, to spend time with, to lift a Guinness alongside. But that had become impossible, the price of war, because his brother was right. Pat is dead. He's fucking dead. That's a heavily edited version of this editorial that I found.
Now, somebody, this this particular story was discussed a lot on my message board this week. And some theist came in and said, I'm trying to understand this. Why are all you atheists so happy about thinking about Pat Tillman being fucking dead instead of being with God?
Well, what an ass!
We're not happy,
but that's not the issue.
No. What I told him was that what atheists deal with every day, I mean, first of all, you get people saying things like atheists aren't citizens and atheists are the cause of all the problems in this world. But more than that, you get constant little jabs all the time. You get, people people asking, what church do you go to, as if it's a foregone conclusion that you will be going to a church.
Which is bizarre, because less than half the population even goes.
Right. I mean, it's little things like that. It's like having to stand up and say, under God and the pledge. It's people carrying with them the unconscious assumption that if you're a person worth knowing, then you must be a theist. And what we applaud when Pat Tillman's brother stands up is basically, he was talking back to them. He was saying, no, he was not he didn't believe in your God. In fact, if your God exists, then he's now being tormented for eternity. But he was still a good guy.
Yep.
And I guess we can presume he was an atheist in a foxhole.
Yeah, and by the way, I saw several different news reports of this story, and only this one, that one of them said he's fucking dead, right? But only one of these news stories said he wasn't religious.
Which was the point of the comment.
Which was the point of the comment, right? Don't defame this man's honor and memory by using his death as yet another vulture-like opportunity to get to sink the hooks of your belief system into people.
Yeah, assholes.
Now, on the subject of the kind of treatment that atheists get, the kind of attitude that people have about atheists in our culture, you have something about that, don't you?
Yes, I do. Just a second.
You were planning on doing it next, but I think now's a good time.
Let's see. Imitating Al Franken, imitating Rush Limbaugh, and now Al Franken too. Here's my paper shuffling. Crap.
You gotta make it appear purposeful.
Yes.
Wait, which of them shuffle papers?
Well, Al Franken started doing that to make fun of Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, okay. So you are imitating Franken, imitating
Limbaugh. Yes. And again, I
think we all get the joke now. Where's the damn article?
Shit. Okay.
You won't bring too much, man.
I know.
Bring too much to the table.
Do what I do. Procrastinate until the last minute and just grab a few key things.
I did procrastinate until the last minute, but I also collected stuff. Here we go!
Hey!
There's going to be some more news. Everybody, relax.
No more filler.
Professors study race and religion. Americans, well, there's some early stuff that's kind of irrelevant, but Americans think racial discrimination is increasing, although black Americans think it's decreasing, a recent nationwide television survey of more than 2,000 Americans found. The findings are the first phase of a 3-year study called the American Mosaic Project, which examines race and religion in the United States. 3 university professors and others designed the survey, which the University of Wisconsin Survey Center conducted last summer. It includes 120 questions about the respondents' views on race, religion, intolerance, and prejudice. Religion, intolerance, and prejudice.
You already tell I'm not going to like what it's going to say.
When questioned about what religious or non-religious group doesn't share their vision of American society, survey participants indicated that atheists, with 54%, provided the greatest threat, Hartman said. Survey participants said...
Wait, how did we ever do that? Wait a minute. I didn't see the way the study was worded, but how did we just leap from people who don't share their vision to people who are a threat?
Right, because in a way we don't share their vision.
We absolutely don't share their vision.
Right.
Absolutely not. Of course we don't.
Could be just the way the article is worded. Okay. In which case, there was no reason to print this at all.
Right.
Go ahead.
But 54% of them said atheism provided the greatest threat, and Muslims were second.
It doesn't say the threat to what. I guess it's the threat to their vision.
To American society, I think.
Yeah? But, I'm glad to hear, though, that they think that we pose a threat to the kind of society that they want. Because we, in fact, oppose the kind of society that they want.
I'd love to pose a threat to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to talk about the kind of society they want now, Russell. It's pornography time.
Okay.
I was gonna go a different way from there. Let's talk porn.
I'm for it.
We do want to start with nipples or the harder stuff?
Your call.
Let's start with nipples. That's a nice lead in. Male nipples.
You mean the harder nipples?
He said hard.
No. Everybody, just hang tight. It'll all become clear.
Uh-huh.
Male nipples too racy for Walgreens. When Calvin Johnson photographed merrymakers at a 4th of July party hosted by gay activist business philanthropist Greg Amell and his partner David Laws, Johnson had no idea it would be the last of the couple's fabulous parties. Weeks later, Amell suffered a fatal heart attack, leaving his old friends with nothing but good memories. After the funeral, Johnson picked up the film he dropped off at Lakewood Walgreens. Amell's large backyard was full of sun that sweltering afternoon. In the midst of the party, he had stepped onto the veranda to make a toast, wearing nothing but shorts and a nipple piercing. He seemed happy and healthy. Johnson wanted to remember him that way. Thankfully, he had photographed the moment. But when he retrieved his pictures, the photo wasn't there, nor were any of his negatives, he said. When he returned to the store, Doug Griffin, assistant manager of the Detroit Avenue Walgreens, told him about a law, that's in quotes, for everybody who can't read my tone of voice, the law,
scare quotes,
that says film developers are under no obligation to print photos they deem offensive. Quote, if someone does not approve of the subject matter, Griffin later scribbled in a note to John, each employee has the right as they see fit. In fact, no such law exists, but this would be an accurate summary of Walgreens' corporate policy. Thanks to pressure from conservative groups like the American Family Association, Walgreens has flip-flopped on its photo policy for the past 2 years. According to AFA Chief Counsel Stephen Crampton, Walgreens used to develop all film dropped off at its in-store labs. Nudity and sex between consenting adults were considered free expression. The liberal attitude annoyed the AFA, so the group ventured to Deerfield, Illinois on February 2003 to meet with Walgreens executives on behalf of an employee who supposedly had been fired for refusing to develop pictures of naked people. Walgreens told them they were mistaken. The employee was laid off because the store had simply overhired. It would not be changing its photo policy. AFA Chairman Don Wildman responded with a letter and telephone campaign against Walgreens. The company was also attacked in an anonymous article titled Walgreens Offers 1-Hour Porn Photo Developing, which was posted on afajournal.org, immodestly billed as America's largest pro-family action site. Quote, Walgreens says it will continue the practice of developing pictures depicting nudity and sexual acts, including bestiality, in 1-hour photo store labs, the article said. It went on to denounce the company for creating a hostile work environment for people opposed to pornographic pictures. Walgreens caved. Company spokeswoman Carol Hively refuses to discuss AFA's influence on the chain, but Walgreens' policy definitely changed. Deciding what's obscene and what isn't is now left to the person operating the photo finishing equipment.
Oh, my.
If a worker is offended by a negative, the photo need not be developed, meaning something as commonplace as a shirtless man with a piercing could be ruled perverse.
Oh, they have to have a piercing.
No, anything that insults them.
You know, a girl in a short skirt.
Yeah.
It's now entirely in the hands of the person developing the photos. If somebody found beards offensive, a bearded man's photos might not be developed. Now,
so
all anything goes.
Anything goes.
Or anything doesn't go.
Right.
Two guys hugging, that sort of thing, probably.
Doesn't even have to be that provocative.
The AFA is still not happy, though. It would rather see Walgreens adopt a policy more akin to Walmart's. There is no ambiguity at the big box behemoth. Walmart spokesperson Dinette Thompson says that instead of submitting a customer's negatives to the subjective judgment of employees, its photo processing policy is sweeping. No nudity, no where, no how. Meijer takes an even more extreme stance. It actually rats its customers out. Managers at the Michigan-based chain, which also has 30 stores in Ohio, are under instructions to call the police if they come across any photographs containing nudity. Even a new bride naked in a garden? We asked spokesman John Zimmerman. Calling the police, he replies. A pair of kids in a bathtub making shampoo horns with their hair? No, not that. Well, he pauses. Well, yes, if any genitalia is visible, then yes, we would have to call the police.
Oh, my goodness.
God!
Well, and if it's a female, letting their big, flat chest.
Holy shit.
CVS, ACA'S, and Rite Aid have ambiguous policies that mirror Walgreens. Decisions are left to employees, which means that if you're shooting photos at the beach this summer, whether they get printed or not is strictly the luck of the draw.
Right.
Boy.
Now that's businesses, and they have a right, as bizarre as it is, the way they're handling it. Businesses have a right to decide what customers they want to serve. Though there is a separate issue about the destruction of negatives.
And calling the police. The
article was careful about, people have a right to call the police when they suspect stuff. Yes. They have that right too. As goofy as it is, the way they're handling it. But I noticed that the article was careful to say that this guy claims the negatives were gone.
Big brother.
But, at least it's not our federal government trying to do this to us.
That's next.
Or is it?
Oh, is it?
One step at a time.
Actually, for the first time in 10 years, the U.S. government is spending millions to file pornography charges across the country. Lam Nguyen's job is to sit for hours in a chilly, quiet room devoid of any color but gray and look at pornography. This job, which Nguyen...
It's all gray, so we won't be distracted from the naked pictures.
Right. This job, which Nguyen does earnestly from 9 to 5, surrounded by half a dozen other computer forensic specialists like him, has become the focal point of the Justice Department's operation to rid the world of porn.
Hey, Russell?
Yeah?
That's a gigantic article. You took the whole thing?
Yeah.
Might I offer you my edited down version?
Please do.
So it's there.
In a field office in Washington, 32 prosecutors, investigators, and a handful of FBI agents are spending millions of dollars to bring anti-obscenity cases to courthouses across the country for the first time in 10 years. Nothing is off limits, they warn, even soft-core cable programs such as HBO's long-running Real Sex, or the adult movies widely offered in guest rooms of major hotel chains. Department officials say they will send ripples through an industry...
That's
not nipples, right? Through an industry,
removing the nipples from the industry.
An industry that has proliferated on the internet and grown into an estimated $10 billion a year colossus, profiting Fortune 500 companies such as Comcast, which offers hardcore movies on a pay-per-view channel. You know why it's a $10 billion a year extremely successful industry?
People
enjoy looking at the sex.
Yeah. How about that?
Now, I'm not the first to jump in and say anything that people like ought to be okay.
No, not at all.
There's people like, apparently shooting other people. I don't think we necessarily want to condone that, but you have to look at the nature of what it is that you're talking about, right? When it's consenting adults having sex with other consenting adults, what is the big deal? How is it anybody's business? If they want to take money, if they want to take money for it, how is it anybody else's business?
I don't know. Drew Oosterbaan, chief of the Justice Department recently hired Bruce Taylor, who was instrumental in a handful of convictions obtained over the past year, and unsuccessfully represented the state in a 1981 case, Larry Flynt versus Ohio.
Which, by the way,
a major motion picture.
There's an excellent movie, The People versus Larry Flynt.
Starring Woody Harrelson as Larry Flynt.
Yes.
And doing a pretty
Courtney
good job.
Love as Mrs. Larry Flynt.
Mm-hmm. Drew Oosterban, chief of the division in charge of obscenity prosecutions at the Justice Department, said officials are trying to send a message and halt an industry that they see as growing increasingly lawless.
Lawless?
You know, all I wish, actually, is that they would get rid of the pornography spam in my inbox. Because I've got kids going through my email.
But
that has nothing to do with...
I wish they'd get rid of all the spam. I don't have a particular bone to pick with the pornography spam.
Yeah. The only problem I have with pornography is the pop-ups. That's the only thing.
That's right.
The endless pop-ups that won't let you get off the site.
Without the pop-ups, how can you have the pornography? Different.
Yeah.
Are you talking about erections, Russell?
Well, yes.
We
yes,
can
I am.
say that on the air.
We can say whatever the F we want.
That's true. We are not regulated by the FCC that I know of.
We are
although that may change soon.
Lawless.
Mm-hmm. And it feels good.
It feels good.
We want to do everything we can to deter this conduct by producers and consumers, Oosterban said. Nothing is off the table as far as content.
At whose behest?
Ashcroft. That's it.
This one guy. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, this other guy, Bush.
Right. Okay, yes. Two guys.
And, you know, really probably the cabal behind Bush that pulls the strings, but...
Right.
Then it gets, you know... gray and murky and cloudy. And
have a Taliban America. Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's right-wing Christian fundamentalists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is exactly the kind of crap I was talking about, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, pornography is not... read on. I'll jump in later. There's something Ashcroft says that is going to make me explode.
Okay, I'm skipping some, but...
Light the fuse now.
Tim Fitzpatrick, the spokesman for Comcast at its corporate headquarters in Philadelphia, declined to comment on the cable network's adult programming, but officials at the National Cable and Telecommunications Association, which Roberts used to chair, said adult programming is legal, relies on subscription services for access, and has been upheld by the courts for years. Good luck turning back that clock, said Paul Rodriguez, a spokesman for the association. Mm-hmm. Don't bait him, please.
No.
Bush, bring it on.
Yeah. There was one of those Onion Quickie headlines this week. It was Bush to terrorists. Please stop bringing it on now.
Oh.
In a speech in 2002, Ashcroft made it clear, here we go, that the Justice Department intends to try. He said, pornography invades our homes persistently through the mail, phone, VCR, cable TV, and the Internet, and has strewn its victims from coast to coast.
Strewn its victims! This is what I'm talking about!
Okay.
Victims of pornography? I mean, I was walking down the street and people in crutches, limbs missing.
There are so many pornographic dead bodies at my house. I can't believe it.
Our nation's morgues are filled to overflowing with the victims of this cruel tide of pornography. Okay. Plus, back up a bit.
No, wait a minute.
Porn invades our homes through VCRs? No, I'm sorry. Porn is invited into your home in the form of a videotape, which you may then put into your VCR. God.
Well,
what an idiot.
Maybe what he means is, there you are at home minding your own business. Suddenly a porn flick comes on. And
on your VCR.
Before you know it, you're lying prone and helpless.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe people are screwing around?
What the hell he's talking
Do you think maybe well-meaning pranksters in Rumsfeld's department are slipping him porn tapes so that he goes to watch some tape of a football game and suddenly it's naked people having sex?
Or maybe he just got pissed off because he tried to log on to www.whitehouse.com.
Oh yeah.
Too frickin' bad.
Those of you under 18 should not go to that address.
Indeed.
Victims of pornography.
The victims of pornography.
I can't. What on earth is he talking about?
I feel so victimized.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. There is, I have been hearing something about an AIDS outbreak among porn stars, with no names named.
No,
which is bizarre. You heard names?
No, I can't remember if I did or not.
No,
might not have been.
I think we should. I think that people should be skeptical about claims of AIDS outbreaks in the porn industry if the news media is not willing to name names. Because it's really easy to start a rumor if you don't say who it is you're talking about. And even if it is true, right, everybody that has sex with somebody that they don't know all that well, and that's not just porn stars.
Right.
In fact, most porn stars know each other better than most of you people out there having one-night stands. That's just a sex-related risk. It's not a porn-related risk.
They are victims of AIDS, not victims of porn.
Well, you think it's possible that this is actually being invented and a rumor spread by
I don't know.
By some right-wing news organization funded by Scape or something.
I don't know. I think that in the interest of keeping our media honest, we should insist that they give us all the details. Mm-hmm. Right?
I would think that if you work in the porn
size
industry,
of their breasts and penises and things.
There you go.
I think they should show pictures of these porn stars actually having sex on the news.
I don't.
And people standing there grinning with their thumbs up. That's it.
And it could get worse. Thumbs up, America. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, I was going to go on to something else.
Oh, you're done?
Else.
Okay. All right. Thank you for reading the truncated version.
Going back to the Walgreens story.
I'm sorry.
There's something else.
Before we move on, the wrap up of this article was obscenity cases came to a standstill under.
Oh gosh, we've got all these confessions coming from the chat room.
Oh, no.
I'm a porn victim. I'm a porn survivor.
Which reminds me of another recent article on The Onion, which was new study reveals thousands of cases of unreported self-abuse. Let me finish the article. The obscenity cases came to a standstill under Janet Reno, President Bill Clinton's Attorney General, was focused on child pornography, which is considered child abuse and comes under different criminal statutes. The ensuing years saw an explosion of porn. Well, that's probably where all those people got hurt. So much so that critics say that Americans' tolerance for sexually explicit material rivals that of Europeans.
So we're not even...
Europe is in so much danger because of pornography.
That's right.
That's the criticism? We enjoy porn. We've got an appetite for porn almost as big as that of Europeans.
Yeah.
I think that we should, America should be number one. We should have an appetite for porn that's bigger than that of Europeans.
We're number one.
What is all this crap? Ah, man. But see, there you go. That kind of thing can be said as a criticism.
If we don't consume more pornography, the terrorists have already won.
But that kind of thing can be said, a negative comparison to the porn appetites of Europeans can be said and taken seriously as a criticism because they've made it their business. They being the religious right. Right. And moralists in general, and a lot of liberal ones too, made it their business to set up pornography as this great evil. They got a lot of us convinced. I got to be careful not to say us all, because Dennis yells at me then.
I do?
You do, because you think I'm talking about you, and of course I'm talking about you. No. I know you like your porn. But they can get away with saying that, and people don't question it because they've managed to inject into our culture this idea that there's something wrong with it in the first place. And that's why, we should be consuming as much porn as possible and being as open about it as possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russell.
Roxy641 has now officially changed the screen name to Porn Survivor.
Okay.
We're praying
thought you were about to say Roxy was going to switch his vote from balls to, what did I say? Tits to testicles.
Testicles. We're all praying for you, porn survivor.
There's nothing.
Or not.
Now I want to see the Porn Survivor reality show.
Porn Survivor.
And they get them all together at the end, and they talk about what happened, and they vote somebody, out of the porn theater.
Vote him out. He can't get it up.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, back to the Walgreens thing.
Oh, yeah?
It's not more about Walgreens, but I'm just thinking, those people can pretty much refuse to serve somebody as conscientious objectors, basically. Isn't that what they're being told by the corporation?
Yes.
Here's something else conscientious objectors can now do.
Oh, boy.
If they live in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan preparing to let doctors refuse to treat gays.
Oh,
the hell?
Doctors or other healthcare providers could not be disciplined or sued if they refused to treat gay patients under legislation passed Wednesday by the Michigan House.
Bigotry trumps Hippocrates. Cool.
The bill allows healthcare workers to refuse service to anyone on moral, ethical, or religious grounds. So, if an unwed pregnant woman comes in the middle of the night, I guess they should refuse to treat her too, because they can't also.
Yeah. But once again, once they say moral, ethical, or religious grounds, right? It just opens up the damn floodgates, because religion can be anything. Right. All these people have this assumption that if it's religion, it's Christianity. No, I'm sorry. There's all kinds of things that all kinds of different religions have considered bad throughout history, and all you need to be is a member of a little cult that has some bizarro belief, and suddenly, I'm sorry, I can't treat you. Why not? You've got blonde hair.
Or you could have a doctor that refuses to treat sick people because they're being sick means they're a sinner. There you go.
You have a calico cat. Right. Therefore, you're evil. You're evil familiar.
I'm sorry. Have you been keeping kosher?
Right. Any of that crap could suddenly be under this kind of law.
I guess that Hippocratic oath was just a ritual sort of thing, like the under God.
And I know how we got started down this stupid path. We started down that way when it was agreed to allow Rastafarians to have their marijuana for religious reasons, and the American Indians to have their peyote for religious reasons. That is what opened up this door. Suddenly, there are these things that are otherwise illegal, and I'm not going to get into the whole drug thing, right? Mm-hmm. But given that it's illegal, there shouldn't be an exception if you start up a cult that says it's good and you have to have it.
Right.
Or
where does it stop?
Nor should it be okay to set aside anti-discrimination laws if you have a little cult that says, no, that's bad and I don't want it.
Yep.
That's crazy. Bullshit. It's bullshit.
Sure is. The Republican-dominated Michigan House passed the measure as dozens of Catholics looked on from the gallery.
Of course.
The Michigan Catholic Conference, which pushed for the bills, hosted a legislative day for Catholics on Wednesday.
Oh, and you know why Catholics want this? Because the Catholics are buying up hospitals all over the place. Our country is in extreme danger of our entire hospital system being dominated by Catholicism.
I hadn't thought about that at all.
That is exactly why they're interested.
Gosh,
we had this here in Austin.
Conflict of interest here, isn't there?
We had this here in Austin. The city licensed the local Catholic hospital to provide city health services, and then after that agreement, the Catholic Church issued an edict saying, "Well, none of our hospitals are going to provide birth control services."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so they suddenly stopped having them. And the city goes, what the fuck? Right? That is a legitimate aspect of city healthcare. What they finally wound up doing, instead of kicking the Catholics out on their holy asses, which is what they should have done, is They had to clear out an entire floor of the hospital and say, this isn't the same hospital as the Catholic hospital. This is another hospital where we will do just the family planning services. At a huge cost, right? Severely undercutting the cost savings that was supposed to happen because of subcontracting the hospital services to the Catholics in the first place.
Right. And why did they do that in the first place? Was it because of the money?
I think it was because of the money.
Yeah.
Well, that screwed that over.
Yeah. People got to start recognizing that, religion is just this big blank check.
Yeah.
Whatever then you want to say is an issue for the religion, the people that are in that religion are then going to suddenly start
demand that everybody respect it.
That's right. That's right. Now, respect is one thing.
No matter how fucked it is.
Respect is one thing, but letting them violate the law just because the thing they want to do is religiously motivated.
And that's
stupid.
That's the whole problem with letting the government get into the faith-based business at all. I mean, every time you object to this whole faith-based stuff, the thing you hear is, you don't want to discriminate against the religions who want to get involved in this. No, we don't want to discriminate against the religions. The religions can get involved as long as they don't let their religion be an issue. Because if you're taking government money, then, I'm sorry, you have to get rid of your religious prejudices that say we can't treat someone unless, even they study the Bible with us first.
And, and they always spin this. There was another story. I don't think any of us brought it in. But there's another story about, I think this may have been in Michigan also, or maybe it was Pennsylvania. Some city building, they gave a very small piece of free office space to this group that claimed that they were going to provide, we're still doing a show up here. That they claimed they were going to provide, emotional counseling to bereaved people and children of divorcees and, rape victims and so on. Well, it was proposed as a completely non-religious service.
Right.
As soon as it got in, bam, it's Christianity.
Yeah.
Right? And when criticized, the lady who's their person, man in the desk in this little office, right, her response is, well, I don't see how I'm supposed to not be qualified to provide this counseling just because I'm a Christian. That's not the fucking issue. That is not the issue. You can be a Christian, but if you're going to provide the service and use it as an opportunity to spread your Christianity, then you're in violation of church-state separation.
Right.
That's the issue. This is not.
They can't give them an inch for
this
some
is not prejudice against Christians.
Exploit.
It's not prejudice against Christians. It's insistence on neutrality in government-provided services. If your religion decides then that it's just like if your religion says we got to have the peyote buds, and we didn't allow them to have it, we said, I'm sorry, your religion doesn't give you an exemption. What we'd be saying was, it's not personal. We didn't make this law because we hate your American Indian religion and we want to deny you your holy right. That's not why. We're doing it because we have a law that says that stuff is illegal. Right? Same to the Rastafarians. I'm sorry, we're not telling you can't have marijuana because we hate Rastafarianism. It's because there's a law against it. It's not personal. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Shall I do a news story?
We've got a lot of Roy Moore coming up, don't we? We can get there later.
You want to do Roy Moore? I guess we can. Let's go straight to Roy Moore.
Alrighty then.
I guess you should do yours first because I got the final one.
I've actually got two.
Okay, go quick.
Okay, Roy Moore's appeal was denied. He has lost his appeal to be reinstated as Alabama's Chief Justice.
I'm sorry, I don't think Roy Moore ever had any appeal.
I smile and stick my thumb up.
And it could get worse.
I think that's pretty much all that needs to be said about
Somebody
that
give me
story.
a broomstick.
Yay!
Now there's someone who deserves the torture.
He is in serious need of some hazing.
Roy Moore unfortunately keeps on teasing us. I really wish he would follow through on this.
Okay.
Roy Moore won't rule out a challenge to Bush. Ousted Alabama Supreme Court Justice Roy Moore, and this is from WorldNet Daily, which we all know is a right-wing wacko site.
Uh-huh.
Ousted Alabama Supreme Court Justice Roy Moore is focused on trying to get his job back, but he will not rule out a third-party run for the presidency that could threaten President Bush's re-election chances.
Oh,
please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please.
Come on, Roy. Come on, Roy. You can do it.
Be our nader.
That's right. Be a right-wing fundamentalist Ralph Nader. That'd be beautiful.
At a recent speaking engagement, the man who became famous for his defense of a Ten Commandments monument was asked during a question-and-answer session whether he would run for president, reported Wall Street Journal columnist John Fund. Not right now, Moore said, according to Fund, who noted Moore's friends say he is undecided about whether to run for president or to wait 2 years and seek Alabama's governorship. Oh, I don't like that idea, because he could actually get it in Alabama.
It's not like Alabama's got a much more rational governor now.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
It wouldn't be that much work.
Jessica Atterbury, a spokeswoman for Moore, emphasized yesterday to WorldNet Daily, Moore is focused on his appeal to the Alabama Supreme Court, which we know now he has lost, but indicated he would not rule out a candidacy for the country's highest office. Anything is possible, she told WND. Hey, I never noticed those initials.
Bush got elected, that's for sure.
However, until the appeals process has been run through, he'll make no decision for political office. Okay, sit tight for more of that, for more news on that.
Oh boy, that would be pretty cool.
Yes.
But in the meanwhile, Moore is being sued for attorney's fees in the monument case.
Yay!
A lawsuit filed Friday, I guess it's a week ago Friday, against ousted Chief Justice Roy Moore claims he used arguments calculated to lose his Ten Commandments monument case, and should therefore pay $550,000 that Alabama owes attorneys who sought the marker's removal.
Oh, he could just make up for it in video sales.
The lawsuit was filed the same day a special state Supreme Court upheld Moore's expulsion from office for refusing a federal court order to remove the 5,300-pound monument. Attorney David Gespass of Birmingham said the lawsuit seeks to have Moore reimburse the state for more than $500,000 in fees and $50,000 in expenses accumulated by lawyers for the three groups that sued to have the monument removed. The lawsuit, filed in Montgomery Circuit Court, contends Moore should have known that defending the monument as an acknowledgement of God was certain to lose. Quote, the defense, that at least had an arguable chance of winning, was that this was a display to show the Ten Commandments and its role in the development of law, David Gespass said, in a telephone interview with the Associated Press. His constant response was, no, I was doing this to acknowledge God. Gespass said the 11 plaintiffs, who range from atheists to pastors and live mostly near Birmingham, Talladega, and Mobile, were particularly upset that Moore retained the copyright to the monument and thus the right to any profits from its renown. The only benefit accruing from it was going to accrue to him and not the state, Gespass said. So he was collecting the money that was derived from the monolith, and he was doing it while expending state funds in engaging in what was essentially a frivolous defense of a lawsuit.
Publicity.
Moore was found guilty of judicial misconduct and expelled from office. And we covered that already.
Yeah.
Oh, so they could, grab all his video sales. That would be great.
Yes, please.
That would
For
be awesome.
filing frivolous lawsuit, they just, take it all back.
Well, we got through the whole Roy Moore thing.
That's a cool idea, yeah.
Well, it's pretty cut and dried.
No, I mean the articles we had. We had 3
yeah.
articles. Did it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I only did one sentence from the first one.
That's true. So what else is going on?
What else is going on? Well,
Do you have Day of Prayer stuff?
Day of Prayer stuff. I have one straight from the Focus on the Family website.
Oh boy!
Ooh.
Everybody, put on your take your Dramamine because there's going to be some spin.
And take your Kevlar, put your Kevlar on because your irony meters are probably
As you all know, is Am I right to think that we have managed to speak about every National Day of Prayer since Bush took office?
Probably.
Yeah. Hey, we've been around for a long time.
They always piss us off, so there's a good chance we talked about it.
Right. So every single year, going all the way back to Mary and Vic. People around the world prayed for God's mercy and forgiveness Thursday.
Uh-huh.
Millions of people from all around the world. Let me see if I can get a James Dobson voice going. Millions of people from all around the world gathered to pray for their leaders and their governments today during the annual National Day of Prayer. The event, formally created in 1952 by a joint resolution of Congress and amended in 1988, now transcends national boundaries.
Are you sure that that's Dobson? That sounds like Pat Robertson to me.
No, this is my...
Go into the pitch where
Dobson experiencing torture.
Have you heard James Dobson?
I don't know. This guy sounds like Pat Robertson.
No, there's...
I was expecting you to start asking for money for the warp drive any second now. Okay, everybody who's seen South Park will get that reference.
The day saw a 3-hour-long satellite simulcast. I can tell my voice isn't working for you. Right. From cities around the world, including Washington, D.C., St. Louis, which one is M.O.? Is that Montana?
Missouri.
Missouri, of course. Dayton Beach, Florida, Lancaster, I don't care. The theme of this year's event was Let Freedom Ring, a theme that includes the freedom to gather, the freedom to worship, and the freedom to pray. And
nobody ever said you didn't have the freedom to pray. Idiots. Oh, God, they're...
Well, they'll do
just another product, right? Oh, this attack on the freedom to pray. There's no such thing. Stop collecting money for it.
Oh, good. Oliver North was in on this one.
Good. Yes.
Yes, a guy whose only claim to fame was being a convicted criminal.
What I like is that they'll have this simulcast, all over the world or something like that. And then tomorrow they'll say, oh, but we're so persecuted.
Right.
How not in the closet can your prayer possibly be?
Yes. In his National Day of Prayer proclamation, President Bush said, prayer is an opportunity to praise God for his mighty works, his gift of freedom, his mercy, and his boundless love. The Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network said it was outraged by those words. And the article just ends there with a little jab with no explanation at gay people.
Yeah, because, you have to have a special day to do your praying to God, which you can do at any time of day ever by just stopping and thinking at your invisible friend.
And it's nice to know
that's why you need a special day.
And it's nice to know that according to Bush, our founding fathers had nothing to do with the formation of this nation.
Yeah. On a related note, Reason Day fails to secure approval. As governors typically do, Governor Ed Rendell issued a proclamation recognizing this year's National Day of Prayer. Pennsylvania non-believers asked him to declare a National Day of Reason, too. Rendell said no.
Of course not. It's not reasonable.
Quote, the governor believes that reason should reign on a daily basis, spokesperson Chuck Ardo said yesterday. He added that prayer is particularly appropriate given the times that we live in. Now, wait a minute. What? If reason is appropriate on a daily basis, why did we even have a day of prayer?
Right.
That's the day when you throw reason out the window. And given the times that we live in, we need reason more than we need prayer. And prayer apparently got us into war with Iraq. Prayer apparently convinced our president that the people that Saddam Hussein in Iraq was hiding weapons of mass destruction.
And is he saying that prayer is not for every day? Seems to be. Seems to be indicating by this double standard.
It's carefully stated. It doesn't say it's particularly appropriate on that day. It just says it's particularly appropriate. So I see. So basically what you're saying is prayer and reason should reign on a daily basis. But we need prayer more, so we have a special day. That's what he's saying. Steve Neubauer of Mount Wolf, president of the Non-Believers, speculated Rendell was afraid of advancing any proposal that came from atheists and agnostics. Neubauer said his group doesn't object to the day of prayer scheduled for Thursday, just to government endorsement of the day. That's favoritism based on religious conviction, he said. Quote, A day of prayer excludes non-believers because we don't pray, he said. But our day of reason, you would think that everybody would be able to endorse.
Yeah.
Katie Burt of Pittsburgh, statewide coordinator for the Day of Prayer, said the non-believers have a right to gather just like we do, but she was glad Rendell rejected the Day of Reason. I'm glad he stood fast, she said. Neubauer,
Against what? Reason?
Against reason.
Against reason. Neubauer, a 54-year-old retired dock worker, said the non-believers group is 6 years old and has about 400 members, mostly in the Harrisburg, Lancaster, and York areas. You go, guys, if there's any of you listening.
Yeah.
Proclamation or no, they will proceed with their second annual National Day of Reason rally on the Capitol steps Thursday, immediately after a Christian group finishes a Day of Prayer rally.
Cool.
Last year, the Christians numbered about 250, singing praise songs and kneeling in repentance and thanks. About 20 non-believers followed with speeches and John Lennon's Imagine on a boombox. Our country, founded on the precepts of intellectual and religious freedom and the separation of church and state, is home to millions of citizens who use reason for guidance, wisdom, and assistance, began the 6-page proclamation the non-believers proposed to Rendell. Proclamations of the Day of Prayer endorse no particular religion. Rendell's, for example, says people should observe the day, quote, in their own personal way, whether through vocal or silent prayer, meditation, or solitary thoughts, or giving thanks.
This was where? In
Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania. Okay. Godstopper
Yeah.
is cheering about. I
That
think
group?
Godstopper is a Pittsburgh or
Awesome.
is a Pennsylvania atheist.
Cool. Public observances, though, typically have an evangelical Christian
Godstopper
flavor.
says, I am in the Pennsylvania non-believers online group.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
you guys all rock.
Okay.
Yeah, do you remember, it mentions here that the National Day of Prayer public observances typically have an evangelical Christian flavor. Do you remember a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, they were actually excluding non-evangelicals from being able to be involved in the planning?
Yes, I do remember that.
Shirley Dobson, wife of religious right activist James Dobson of Focus on the Family, has headed a National Day of Prayer task force since 1991. This year, Oliver North is honorary chairman. A spokesman says that the only governor he's known to refuse to proclaim a National Day of Prayer was Jesse Ventura, former governor of Minnesota, who also is a cool dude.
Yes, but
You rock,
no longer
Jesse.
governor, I believe.
Yeah, well, at least he was governor long enough to do that.
Right. I agree with BNM. We should have a National Day of Prayer to Joe Pesci.
Oh, Joe Pesci.
It's amazing what can be accomplished with a simple baseball bat.
You reduce all problems to a simple solution.
Yeah. Well. Whew. What else we got, Russell? I know you got more.
What else have we got? Well, Bush is pushing another extreme right-wing SOB through to become a judge.
Yeah, which one this time?
The Senate Judiciary Committee has scheduled on an April 27th, this was from April 26th, has scheduled an April 27th confirmation hearing on the nomination of Star Report co-author Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. In a report released today, this is actually from the People for the American Way website, People for the American Way urges senators to reject the nomination. The PFAW report documents that Kavanaugh's legal career has been almost entirely devoted to right-wing partisan and ideological pursuits that raise deeply troubling concerns about the impact he could have on Americans' rights and freedoms as an appeals court judge.
This was on the 27th they had this.
They scheduled a confirmation, which I think means
Does that mean he's in?
he was pretty much in, I believe.
Ugh.
The report also notes that his legal resume pales in comparison to other D.C. Circuit nominees. A lifetime appointment to a powerful federal appellate court...
Appellate.
Damn it, I always do that.
Appellate court. Yeah.
Should not be
is a little
and you always
Java
correct
thing.
me. I know, I've written some. Should not be a reward for a highly partisan political warrior, said People for the American Way President Ralph G. Neese.
Well, how else are you going to remove the checks and balances of our country?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've only got the presidency and the two
houses,
right.
Might as well get it all.
And most of the press. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Par for the course.
All right. Well, on a lighter note.
Please do a lighter note.
The Vatican will not allow Muslims to pray, to resume praying in the mezquita. That's not related to mesquite.
Mesquita?
The mezquita, the former mosque that is now the Cathedral of Cordoba, telling them that they must accept history and try not to take revenge on the Catholic Church. We, too, want to live in peace with persons of other religions, Archbishop Michael Fitzgerald, president of the Pontiff Council for Interreligious Dialogue, told the Vatican's Asia News Agency. However, we don't want to be pushed, manipulated, to go against the very rules of our faith. Monsignor Fitzgerald criticized the authorities of the southern Spanish city for lobbying to have the building, once one of the world's biggest mosques, reopened to Muslim prayer. He claimed the Spanish Muslims who had been publicly lobbying for the right to pray had yet to make a formal request to the Vatican. The Archbishop said the Vatican had been careful not to demand similar rights at mosques which were once Catholic churches, although he acknowledges that Pope John Paul II had prayed at a mosque at Damascus in Syria. The Holy Father visited the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, praying in front of the tomb of St. John the Baptist, but he did not ask to celebrate Mass, he said. One has to accept history and go forward. Now, wait a minute. Does everybody understand this?
No, you need to state it simpler.
Okay. There's this building, that was a mosque, and now then it was a Catholic church, and now they want to make it a mosque again. And apparently it's okay. No. It is okay for some religion to come over and take another religion's church over once.
Right.
But not twice.
But not twice, apparently.
But not twice, because if it's twice, then you're going against history somehow.
Right.
Yes.
If I suppose, it's not spelled out, but I'm guessing the reasoning here is if there was a conflict over ownership, then whoever won out in that conflict won, and it should just be like that, right?
Right.
He pointed out that Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, another important building with a past as both a Christian place of worship and a mosque, was now a museum. It is difficult to have Christians and Muslims mixing and sharing a common civic and religious life, despite being driven by wanting to go back in time or take some form of vengeance. Where is vengeance coming from? The building used to be a mosque. They want it to be a mosque again. What is the problem? Although the Archbishop said...
I'm perfectly happy for the museum option to win out.
Yeah.
If it is a Catholic chapel with the Blessed Sacrament inside, it should not be used for the prayer services of another religious tradition. Well, that seems like ever. But it used to be a mosque with blessed Muslim things inside,
I'm
right?
Sure.
And didn't you people come in and take it over that time?
The irony is thick.
He admitted Muslims had prayed in the Vatican, but quote, they do not lay claim to it. Yeah, but you people laid claim to this mosque in Spain, right? It was a mosque, and you came in and you prayed in it, and you made it a church. Well, how is it that you guys have a moral high ground here?
Because they're infidels.
Okay, now here's the clincher.
But it's just not nice to say that.
The site of the cathedral was a Roman temple before becoming a church under the Visigoths, and then a mosque during the Arab conquest. It became a cathedral after the city was recaptured in 1236.
Wow.
So wait a minute. If the reasoning that, there was... never mind. It's changed hands so many times, it's irrelevant.
They used to make sacrificial offerings to
Zeus
worship there.
Zeus, yeah, you guys went not Zeus.
No, not Zeus.
Jupiter.
Yes.
Brain dead. Any little idiot.
By the way, the Spanish Muslims, what they're really after, they say that as the cathedral only occupies part of the former mosque complex, which is the third biggest in the world, and only part of it is used by the Christians, They want to be able to pray in a different part. That's all they're asking for.
But the church doesn't have enough money, apparently.
It's the stupid magic, right? It's magic. No, it's Christian now, so if you do Muslim things in it, it will ruin it. No, it won't. It doesn't make any damn difference. Nothing is going to happen. And you stole it from them. Well, you stole it from the Romans, assholes. You have no claim. I despise that about religion.
Oh, there's another story about Christians being pissed at Muslims.
Yeah?
Hamtramck, Michigan.
This isn't Christians being pissed at Muslims. This is Christians being pricks to Muslims.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
To hear people in this blue-collar city tell it, things were fine until the Al-Islah Islamic Center petitioned to broadcast its call to prayer, or Azan, over an outdoor loudspeaker. Masood Khan, the mosque secretary, sat on the carpeted floor on Wednesday and reflected on what he had learned about some of his neighbors in the last few months. How much they hate us, he said softly.
Yep. It's all about hate.
Jackie Rutherford, a librarian and youth care worker, sat on her front stoop watching three men in Islamic shirt dresses and toupee caps at the house across the street. I don't know what's going to happen to our little town, said Ms. Rutherford, 39. I used to say I wasn't prejudiced against anyone, but then I realized I had a problem with them putting Allah above everyone else, she said, of the plan to amplify the call to prayer, which mosques announce 5 times a day. It's throwing salt in a wound. I feel they've come to our country, infiltrated it, and they sit there looking at us, laughing, calling us fools.
How do you fucking like it? We live with it every fucking day.
Yeah, you go, Muslims.
God damn it.
You tell them. They're fools, too, but we'll get around to that.
For some longtime residents, like Joanne Golan, 68, who describes herself as a born-again Christian, the request to amplify the call to prayer crossed a line. Mrs. Golan said she had always gotten along well with the Bangladeshi families in her neighborhood. She noted that at Easter, one of her new neighbors brought her a turkey that he had gotten at work. But she said the call to prayer was too much. My main objection is simple, she said. I don't want to be told that Allah is the true and only God 5 times a day, 365 times a year. It's against my constitutional rights to have to listen to another religion evangelized in my ear. Now, wait a minute. But we agree with her, don't we?
Yeah, but it's the irony, right?
Yeah,
irony.
The irony. For us, that is what we live with. That is what we live with 5 times a day.
She is utterly oblivious to the irony. That's
we
the thing.
Don't
She's
think you should have to
oblivious.
listen to another religion evangelize at you.
That's right. We
Surprise!
don't. We don't.
Utterly oblivious.
But they're the ones that are doing it. They're just getting a taste of their own medicine.
And they really don't like it. Well, too fucking bad. My heart fucking bleeds. I had a crocodile and squeezed tears out of it. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So they want that stopped. Meanwhile, the National Day of Prayer
Unthinking.
Yeah.
that only allows evangelical Christians and has a president supporting it publicly. That's all.
It's insensate evil. They're unaware of the irony of their position.
Speaking of which, Dennis, you've been having some discussions in the Alt-Atheism newsgroup.
Oh, yeah.
You prankster? What have you been saying to those poor people that come in to cause trouble in the newsgroup for atheists?
Well, one drew an analogy that, he obviously can't convince me of God, right?
Go ahead and name names. I'm sure we have a lot of people.
Angelicus Rex.
Angelicus Rex.
I think that's
on the Alt-Atheism newsgroup.
Alt-Atheism newsgroup. And he's going on about, if I showed you a fleck of gold and said there's a vein of gold in those hills, obviously talking about, evidence for God, and then, you got to go find God, by reading the Bible, right? And I go, well, yes, that would work if you had a fleck of gold to show me, you know. He's drawing this analogy. And of course, his next response is, but, you know, you're being so literal. I'm not talking gold, you know, and I go, you don't want analogies, don't use them.
You are not being literal. You didn't say.
No, I was being.
You said
metaphorical.
In your analogy, it's gold. You're still saying gold, which is not literal because he's not literally talking about gold. So when you say gold, you're just responding to his analogy.
He's a total theistic troll. What can I say?
And wait a minute. You can get a fleck of gold from anywhere.
Yeah. We should jump in and say.
But he hasn't even shown us that.
That is exactly that thing you just described to you. That is exactly how the lads from Lagos operate. Mm-hmm. They will send you a fleck of gold to prove to you that they have a gold mine, and that they need you to deposit $100,000 in a bank account. So that they can get their money into the U.S. so you can have 50% of it. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, that is exactly how they operate.
Right.
So it is not true or sensible that if somebody shows you a fleck of gold and they tell you that it came from those mountains over yonder, that you should necessarily take their word for it.
Right.
Yeah.
That does not follow.
Jeez.
By the way, speaking of the lads from Lagos, have you ever been to 419eater.com?
Not that I know of.
That is an awesome site. It's devoted to guys who bait those people.
I have been to a site like that. And in fact, they actually, on the site that I was rating, one of these guys, what they do is they write back to the lads. The lads from Lagos are that is the term for these guys from Lagos, which is in where? Nigeria. They get on the internet and they send out these insane letters saying, you know, my father was a general and captured this loot and had it stored away, and I want to get it to the United States, and I need somebody to set up the bank account.
I'm sure everyone listening receives 10 of these every week.
It's an elaborate ruse to get you to part with some of your money. And they write back. My favorite one was the guy writing back like as the skipper as the professor from Gilligan's Island, knowing that the guys in Nigeria had never seen Gilligan's Island. Right? But it's hilarious to those of us.
My two favorites, in one of them, this guy actually got the other guy to send him $20.
Yes.
As a gesture of good faith.
Yes. And they had a party and bought a keg of beer with the $20.
And in another one, he actually started pretending that he was getting scammed by another Nigerian guy, and started writing to him as that guy, and got the guy to write him back a whole bunch of stuff, saying like, "Why are you, stealing this sucker from me?"
Wow!
Maybe we can split the profits from him or something.
Oh man!
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway, 419eater.com is good for many afternoons of entertainment. And it's called 419eater because 419 is the penal code under which this is actually illegal.
Ah, okay.
Huh. Well, we have had a rollicking show.
Yes,
indeed.
We have. More rollicking than usual.
We talked about porn. We talked about Roy Moore.
Torture.
Some of the stories were torturous.
Yeah. Boy, torture. And it's raining outside here in Austin.
Yeah.
Which sucks because we were going to go out and do something outside tonight. That might be canceled now.
True. But rain is good for the flowers.
Yes, it is. Especially here in Texas where we don't get all that much.
That is true.
Yeah. What else went on? Oh, no, the reason why we didn't have a show, well, we did. We had the audio portion of the TV show that's produced by the Atheist Community of Austin.
Yes.
They had me on as a guest
I haven't heard any feedback about that, although it was a great show.
If anybody is in the chat channel who heard that and has any commentary on it, we'd sure like to know. We did that as a filler because we knew we weren't going to be able to make it because... Oh, can I talk about this?
1 minute left.
Can I talk about what's going on?
You got to talk fast.
No,
I guess I can't say anything. There's an organization that is thinking about setting up a branch here in Austin, and it's a allied organization that we'd very much like to have move here, and they put on a little conference. But since they haven't definitely decided or announced that they're going to set up branch here. I guess I can't say anything, but there I've teased you a little bit, and we'll come back in a later episode when we know what's actually happening and tell you. It's the keenest thing ever.
It's a good plan.
So are we done?
We can be done. We can keep going for another 30 seconds.
We'll take the 30 seconds to say thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes.
Indeed. Thank you for everybody who was in the chat room. Always a pleasure to have you there and read your commentary. Yep. I'm sorry that so many of you were harmed by pornography, but we still have to defend that right. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another exciting episode.
Woo!
And we'll see you later.
All right. Well,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.